So today we'll be starting a new topic. Just give me a minute. Now listen. So the next topic that we are going to start today is magnetic effects of current from your, like you would have learned this chapter in your 10th grade, right? So there is a topic called as magnetic effects of electric current, right? So this is the name of the chapter in your 10th grade. In your 12th, they call it as moving charges and magnetism. That is, this chapter mainly concentrates on how the moving charges are able to generate magnetism. It is actually an extension of what you have learned in your 10th standard, except the fact that here you'll be seeing certain derivations to understand how it actually works. Okay, so let's get started. So if you see the first chapter, we dealt with, if you see the first and the second chapter, we dealt with the charges at rest. The third chapter, we dealt with charges in motion. The fourth chapter is what are the effects of charges being motion is what we are going to see. Okay. So to begin with a simple introduction, if there is a conductor in which there is current flowing from one end to another, then you try to place a compass close to it. Okay, then you can observe some deflection in this compass. So what does it mean, guys? So what does that mean? When you have a current carrying conductor, when current is flowing through it, you can see that there is a small deflection taking place in the compass. So what does that mean? So compass will be able to show a deflection under what scenario?
Magnetic field is produced.
So whenever there is a presence of magnetic field, because let's recollect this concept, okay? So in the first chapter, there is a topic like this. What happens when an electric dipole is placed in external electric field?
Experiences torque.
It experiences torque, right? In a similar way, if you take a compass, compass is also a small dipole. So when the dipole is placed in the external magnetic field due to the current carrying conductor, it starts experiencing torque and it revolves. Okay. So this was first observed by a scientist named Oersted. Okay. So after which there were further developments on what are the different arrangements in which you can place a conductor so that different kinds of magnetic fields are produced. Okay. So all those things were calculated. So like how you have um, Coulomb's law in electrostatics to find the force between two charges, right? So in this chapter, you have a law called as Biot-Savart. Let me write it neatly. You have Biot-Savart's law. So this law speaks about finding the magnitude of magnetic field at a point due to a current carrying conductor. Finding the magnitude of magnetic field at a point due to a current carrying conductor is what is done by this Biot-Savart's law. Okay. So let me explain what exactly happens. Suppose I have a current carrying conductor of some random shape. It is neither a straight conductor nor a circular. It is of some random shape. Okay. And let's say the current is flowing in the upward direction, and I have a point P here, due at which I'm interested to calculate the magnetic field due to this kind of a system. So what we will do is we will take a small current carrying element of length dl, and from the point dl, if you take this distance to be r in the direction towards the point P, if you take it as r, then dB, if I call it as small magnetic field at point P, then dB is directly proportional to the current flowing through the circuit. dB is directly proportional to the length of the current carrying element. So this dl is called as the current carrying element. So here there are two things to be noted, guys. I'm repeating it again. This AB is nothing but a current carrying conductor. AB is current carrying conductor, whereas DL is current carrying element, means a small piece of it. Okay, I stands for current, obviously. So dB is observed to be directly proportional to I, and it is also observed to be directly proportional to DL. And dB is observed to be inversely proportional to the distance from the current carrying element to the point P. So R is nothing but distance from current carrying element to point P. Okay. So one last point here is, if I take the angle between the current carrying conductor and R vector as theta, then dB is observed to be directly proportional to sine theta as well. So these are all the parameters on which the small amount of magnetic field that is getting generated at point P is dependent on. Okay, please make a note of all these points and let me know if there is any doubt.
So I have a doubt.
Please tell me.
So could you explain how it's dependent on sine theta once more?
That's what I told you. You need not worry about it.
And
It is
even
not
for 1 by r square, sir. How is it? How is it dependent on 1 by r square?
Means as the distance increases, the value of magnetic field will decrease. That is what they are trying to say. It is inversely proportional to r square, no? So as you move away from the conductor, means if the conductor is like this, you place the compass here, you will observe more amount of deflection. If you take the compass here, the amount of deflection will decrease. Though this point and this point are in the same line, okay, the closeness is going to, more close the magnet is, more is going to be the deflection. Because you're closer to the conductor, more will be the value of magnetic field. It's something similar to charge only. If this is the charge, if you're close to the charge, you'll experience more amount of electric field. If you move away, it is going to decrease.
Okay, sir. Understood.
Okay. So dB is this thing. If you combine all these parameters, then dB is observed to be directly proportional to ideal sine theta the whole divided by r square. Okay. Then dB, if we remove the proportionality symbol, can be written as mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal sine theta the whole divided by r square. Mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal sine theta the whole divided by r square. So this is the scalar form of Biot-Savart law. This is the scalar. Okay, so please make a note of it. Where mu naught is called as permeability of free space. So permeability means the extent to which the medium allows the magnetic field to exist. So permeability is the extent to which the medium allows the magnetic field to exist. That is the case, then mu naught divided by 4 pi is equal to 10 power minus 7. Okay. So this is the value. Like how you write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught as 9 into 10 power 9. Here it is mu naught by 4 pi will be equal to 10 power minus 7. Okay. Listen guys. So I wrote it as 10 power minus 7, but I didn't write the units for it. So I'm leaving some space for it. Observe, dB is measured in Tesla. Not only dB, it is magnetic field. So the SI unit of magnetic field is Tesla. Tesla is the name of a scientist, so capital T. So taking this Tesla and putting it in this equation, I get T is equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi into I is measured in ampere. I is measured in ampere. DL is measured in meter. Sin theta has no units divided by meter square. So this and this will get cancelled, which implies mu naught by 4 pi has a unit of Tesla meter per ampere. So I can take this and substitute it here. What do I get? It is Tesla meter per ampere. Here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the next topic is going to be Biot-Savart law in vector form. So how are we going to write the same thing in the vector form is what we are going to see. Now observe. See, we know that dB is equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal sine theta the whole divided by r square. Ideal sine theta divided by r square. So if I take a wire, current is there, dl is there, r vector is there, and point P is there. Now I am trying to write it in a vector for which I need to see what are all the vector quantities that I have. So what are all the vector quantities I have? I. Is it a vector or a scalar? This I is a scalar quantity. What about dl? dl is actually a vector quantity. Okay, the current carrying element is a vector quantity and its direction is in the direction of current. Okay, it is in the direction of current, and r is obviously a vector quantity, and sine theta doesn't have any direction, right? So keeping all these points in mind, what I'm going to say is this dB, we will write it as mu naught divided by 4 pi. Ideal, I'll take it as one word. Okay. I'll multiply with r and divide it with r so that it becomes ideal into r sine theta divided by r cube. So if I take this ideal as A, R as B, this AB sine theta is what is going to give you A vector cross B vector. So mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal cross R divided by R cube is going to be the vector form of the magnetic field. So dB vector is equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal vector cross R vector divided by R cube. So this is the vector. Please make a note of. Finish, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now listen. Since dB vector is dependent on dB vector is dependent on ideal vector cross R vector. Listen to this carefully, okay? Then direction of dB vector is in the plane perpendicular to both ideal and R. So what I'm trying to say here is, suppose I take my hand, okay, and I say ideal is in the same, ideal is in my hand and R is also in my hand. So ideal is like this and R is like this. Then when you do the cross product between two given vectors, we know that the resultant is always in the direction perpendicular to both the vectors. Because when you write A vector cross B vector, right, it is magnitude of A vector into magnitude of B vector times n cap, where n cap represents a unit vector in the direction perpendicular to both these vectors. Okay, having this point in mind, how are we going to find the direction of resultant due to a cross product? So if this is ideal and this is R, then ideal vector cross R vector is going to give you the direction of the resultant. Means you need to take your right hand, okay? You need to take your right hand and curl the fingers of your right hand from the first vector towards the second vector in the shortest direction possible. For example, if I take ideal as A and R vector as B, then I need to curl the fingers of my right hand from A to B in the shortest direction possible. Right? So when I do that, I will be getting the resultant of these two. Here, guys, please make a point. Okay. So having all these points in mind, I just want to ask one question. If I take a current carrying conductor like this, okay, if I take a point P here, tell me the direction of magnetic field due to the current carrying conductor at point P.
So is it in the direction of P, sir?
Apply right hand thumb rule, bro. Current is in this direction, R is in this direction. So what does Biot-Savart law according to direction depend on? Is directly proportional to ideal cross R. So I told you already, dl vector takes the direction of current and R vector is obviously whichever R vector is from the current carrying element to the point P. So how does it happen? This is ideal vector. If this is R vector, from ideal vector, you need to take a turn towards R vector in the shortest direction possible. So you guys do this activity and tell me. Have a pen in front of your eyes, point P on the right of the pen. Okay. So this is ideal. Your pen's nib is going to be the direction of ideal, and R is perpendicular to your pen. From ideal to R, what is the direction in which you are going to turn?
Clockwise, sir.
So when you turn it clockwise, the same thing you're going to do on top of the book also. When you turn it clockwise, then the thumb represents the direction of the resultant. So in this case, it is going to be into the plane. So magnetic field on the right hand side will be into the plane. If I take a point P dash here, tell me what is going to be the direction of magnetic field at this point.
Outwards, sir.
Be outward. Because on the left hand side, you will curl the fingers in the anti-clockwise direction. Ideal, same direction, point P here. From ideal towards R, if you turn it, it is going to be out of the plane. So these are the symbols used. This is called into the plane, means an into mark and a circle around it represents into the plane, and a dot with a circle around it represents out of plane. Okay, so this is one way of finding the direction of magnetic field, and the other is by using right hand thumb rule. So the right hand thumb rule is something like this. Place the thumb of your right hand in the direction of current and curl fingers of your right hand in the Curl the fingers of your right hand around the conductor as if you're holding it. Direction in which direction in which fingers are curled gives the direction of magnetic field. So place the thumb of your right hand in the direction of current and curl fingers of your right hand around the conductor as if you are holding it. Direction in which the fingers are curled gives the direction of magnetic field at that point. Okay. So this is a simpler rule. This is called as right hand thumb rule. Okay. Now say, let's say this is the conductor. Okay. So this is the direction in which the current is there. So what does the law say? Take your right hand and place the thumb of your right hand in the direction of current. Current is in upward direction. So I'm taking my thumb, I'm placing it in the direction of current. And from here, curl the fingers as if you're going to hold it. When you curl it, right, observe, when you curl it, on the right hand side, you're going into the plane. On the left hand side, you're coming out of the plane. Right? So on the right side, you can say that the magnetic field is into the plane, whereas on the right hand side, left hand side, you can say that the magnetic field is out of the plane. Am I clear, guys? So this is what is called as right hand thumb rule. This is another way. So there are two ways to find. One is using the idea of cross product of vectors. The second is using the concept of right hand thumb rule. Both will give you the direction of magnetic field at a particular point. Clear? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So having all these points in mind, what we will do is students, just give me 2 minutes time. I'll be back. So now what we are going to do is, we will take this concept and start deriving the expression for magnetic field due to a straight current carrying conductor. Magnetic field due to a straight current carrying conductor at a distance A from it. Okay, so just a point to add here, current carrying conductor of finite length. So I'm going to take a current carrying conductor of finite length which is straight in nature, and at a distance A from it we are going to find the magnetic field. If I take a conductor like this of current I, and if I take a point P here, okay, so if I'm taking a point P here like this, then this distance is A, guys, and this conductor is of finite length. I want everybody to pay 100% attention because there's a tricky concept. You need to, there is a lot of mathematics involved in this, so pay attention, and if there is any doubt, get it clarified. Okay, so the only law that I know now is Biot-Savart law. So applying Biot-Savart law, if I have to find the magnetic field at a particular point, then what are all the parameters I need to know with respect to it? So what are all the parameters that need to be taken into consideration to find the magnetic field? dB is dependent. Current
distance from the conductor.
You have a current carrying conductor, you need a current carrying element, you need the distance from the current carrying element and the angle made by the current carrying element with the distance. Right? So listen to this carefully, okay? Before I proceed to this concept, I just have one question. Current carrying conductor is like this. If DL is current carrying conductor is there. If DL is the current carrying element, if I take this as R, okay, I'm saying that this is theta. Okay, instead of taking DL at the bottom, if I take the DL above the arrow mark, and if I say this distance is R, and I say this is theta, and this is theta, when I apply it in the formula, dB is equal to mu dl, mu naught by 4 pi into IDL sine theta I'm applying, no? When I apply the sine theta with respect to this conductor, do I need to take the blue color as the theta or the green color as theta? They both are not of same value. So what I'm trying to ask is, dB is equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi, ideal sine theta divided by r square is there, no? I need to substitute theta here. If I take the DL at the top, that is above the arrow mark, I can define two thetas logically, right? I'm able to define two thetas where those are the angle made by the current carrying element with the distance. Now, in this particular place, which theta should I apply? Do I need to take the blue one or the green one?
Take the enclosing one, sir. That's the green.
I need to take green, correct, Ada? Yes or no? Guys,
Yes,
okay, but that is wrong. Okay, there is a reason why I'm stressing on this point. I've seen it's a very, very common mistake. It's the most common mistake, okay? Because our eyes always know generally tends to go and see for something which is secured. You're seeing it because current carrying conductor is like this and R is like this. Theta is, the green color theta is safe between these two. That is why you think it is the case. No. So whenever you take that sine theta, right, that theta, see, current carrying element is like this, R is like this. No. You should always take the direction from the current carrying element towards R. So this is the direction of ideal and towards R is something like this. So I should take the angle which is in the clockwise. That is the angle which is above. I need to take the blue color one. Guys, are you able to understand? Just to clarify the concept, I just will give you another scenario. Now tell me which is theta.
The green
Green
one,
or
sir.
The green one.
Black, sir.
it is a black one because now what has happened? Current carrying element is like this and R is like this. So you need to turn like this. That is, from this current carrying element, you need to take a turn towards R in the shortest direction possible because what did I say sine theta is? Sine theta is the angle between the current carrying element and R vector.
Understood.
Got it? So having all these points in mind, what we will do is having all these points, let's carry with this. Let's proceed with this derivation. So if I take a current carrying element here, and if I take this angle as this current carrying element as dl, I will take this angle as theta, obviously, right? And the distance from the current carrying element to the point P as r. Now, what is going to be the value of dB at point P? I'm not concerned about directions, guys. Direction, we can find it out later at any point of time. So what is the value of dB at point P? Is it not mu naught divided by 4 pi L into ideal sine theta, the whole divided by r square? So let me call this as equation number 1, correct? Mu naught divided by 4 pi into ideal sine theta divided by r square. That's the basic Biot-Savart. Okay. So here there are certain important points to be kept in mind. I'm going to stress on certain points, the mathematical terms or the mathematical aspects to be kept in your mind whenever you're solving these kind of scenarios. Okay. So you will be learning all these things in your math and differential equations chapter. But there is a lot of time for it. Since I'm dealing it now, I have to explain you certain things. See, wherever the concept of d theta or db, something like this comes, wherever the concept of d comes, it is called as a differential coefficient. It is called as a differential coefficient. And remember, the counter operation of differentiation is integration. Means if you have to get eliminated of a differential coefficient at any point in time, then you need to integrate it. Okay. Am I clear with the first point?
Yes, sir.
Second point. Sir, you told you can integrate it, right? So if I take this and directly start integrating, according to me, because I know it, I'm telling you, this equation doesn't make sense. If you ask me why. So what I'm trying to say is, sir, sir, you mean to say that you're going to put an integral symbol here and going to finish the task? No, I cannot do that. Because if I need to put that symbol integral with respect to differential equation, I need to ensure that the mathematical equation I have in my hand should be a function of one variable. I hope everybody knows what is a function, right? So I need to ensure that the mathematical expression I have, especially in this case on the right hand side, because left hand side I can put an integral any point of time. Integral of dB is b. Integral and d are counter operations, they'll get cancelled, right? Whereas on the right hand side, observe, no? the whole expression should be a function of one variable. But now I'm going to do an analysis. Is dV for the expression written on the right hand side a function of one variable? Obviously, no. Because what are all the varying parameters you have in the question or you have in the equation? So for that, you need to observe each and every term. Okay. Mu naught by 4 pi is a constant. We introduced it as a constant of proportionality whose value is 10 power minus 7. First. Second, I is a constant because it's a steady state current. Third, what about DL, guys? Is it a constant?
Fixed, sir.
Is it fixed? Rohan, just to add a point to your yes, it is not fixed because had it been fixed, if you see DL is a differential coefficient. Okay, if DL is fixed, I can say that L part is also fixed. Then DL should have been 0. No, that's not the case. So DL, I took it as some random value. I can take this much also as DL. See, when I take it, I will draw two lines like this. You can draw two lines like this. So DL is not a fixed quantity. In a similar way, what about theta? So the current carrying conductor is like this. If I take DL here, I'm getting this as theta. If I shift this DL to some other location, is the value of theta going to be the same?
No, sir.
So when DL and theta do not have a fixed value, is the value of R going to be the same?
No, sir.
Think and tell me, don't just tell it for my sake. It is not going to be same because if I take the value of DL at the bottom, if the conductor is like this, I took DL here, so that I got this as R and this as theta. If I take DL here, then this will be R and this will be theta. This angle and this angle are not same. This R and this R are not same. Hence,
R is a variable.
nothing. It's dV is dependent on 3 parameters. So it's a function of 3 variables. Now, with this step, physics is over. Nothing else because physics told only one statement, that is Weierstrass-Laurent. Its duty is over. Now we need to bring in mathematics to solve this particular equation and convert everything into a function of one variable, and then we will integrate it with the proper limits. This is the trickiest part with respect to this derivation. So I'm repeating, I want everybody to pay 100% attention. Listen to this carefully. So if I take this angle as phi, what is the relation between theta and phi? Can I say theta is equal to 90 minus phi, or can I say theta is equal to 90 minus phi? That's it. Because it forms a right angle triangle. Okay, that is one thing. Generally, whenever you consider the element dx or dl, right, it should be considered at a distance x and the element's length should be dx. That is a general procedure. So here, from this fixed point, so-called fixed point, at a distance L from it, I'm considering a small element dl, and let this fixed point be named as A. Oh, sorry, A is already there. So there is AB, right? P, Q, R. Okay. Now what I will do is, I will rewrite this equation like this. So this integral is not there because we are not yet ready to integrate. So mu naught divided by 4 pi into I dl sine of theta is nothing but 90 minus phi. Theta is 90 minus phi, the whole divided by r square. Correct? So mu naught divided by 4 pi into IDL into sine 90 minus pi is cos pi, the whole divided by r. This is the value of magnetic field at a particular point. Let me call this as equation number 2. Okay. Now I'm going to solve the whole thing using a simple right angle triangle PQR. If I take the right angle triangle as PQR, now observe PQR, then this angle is phi, this is A, this is R, and this is L. So what is the fixed distance here? The only fixed parameter is A. So it's always advisable that you have in terms of a fixed value and one of the variables. So the best variable that is going to relate L and R with A is phi, because I can use trigonometry. So what is L divided by A? L divided by A is tan phi. So L will be equal to A tan phi. Correct? But if you observe this equation, I don't want L, rather I want DL. So what I will do is differentiate on both sides with respect to phi. Then I will get dl divided by d phi is equal to a secant square phi d phi. Sorry, a secant square phi. That's it. Which implies dl will be equal to a secant square phi d phi. And let me call this as equation number 3. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
What is the relation between R and A? A divided by R is cos phi, which implies R is equal to A secant phi, and let me call this as 4. Okay. So I will use 3 and 4 into using 3 and 4 into. What do we get? dB will be equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi into I into, in the place of dl, what can I write, guys? A secant square phi d phi into, I have a cos phi here, I will write the cos phi, the whole divided by, what do I have next? R square. R square is nothing but A square secant square phi. So what gets cancelled? Secant square phi, secant square phi. 1A gets cancelled. So you get mu naught divided by 4 pi. I will combine this A with 4 pi into I into, okay, I'll write this I also here. Mu naught I divided by 4 pi A into cos phi d phi is what is dB. Now you guys check, is it a function of one variable or more than one variable?
One variable, sir.
One variable. Now you're ready to integrate. Okay. So before that, I want you all to copy it properly. Just go through it. If there is any doubt, please ask.
Sir, can you see the diagram?
Yeah. This one or the above one?
The other one, sir.
This one. Huh?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, can you scroll the down?
See, Mithun asked a question, why are we differentiating with respect to phi? Because, see, reason is very simple. L in this mathematical equation is a function of phi. So whichever is a variable, you need to differentiate it with that value. That is why I differentiated with respect to phi.
So can you scroll up for a second?
This fails, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Want me to go even more up? Is this fine?
Fine, sir.
Okay. So I hope everybody has copied it, right? More importantly than copying, you guys have understood it. Can I take it as an assurance? Is everyone clear with it?
Yes, sir.
Good. So dB is equal to mu naught I divided by 4 pi a into cos phi d phi. Now, if I integrate on both sides, this is another tricky part in this question, but not a big deal. So integral of dB is equal to mu naught I divided by 4 pi a into cos phi d phi with an integral symbol. Okay. So I'm redrawing the first diagram. I have a current carrying element, point P here. This is phi. This is dl. Correct? This is dl. Okay. But I told you in the beginning of this derivation that this conductor is of finite length. So here, when you're integrating, observe the expression, phi is a variable. So it is our job to find what would be the extreme values of phi for which you can cover the whole conductor. Sharia? Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, since you have cos phi here, then cos phi can cover only this much because phi belongs to only this triangle. Guys, are you able to understand? So phi belongs to this so-called right angle triangle. But for that phi to vary and cover the whole conductor, what are we supposed to do is, from the endpoint, drop, join the point P, from the bottom, join the point in such a way. You have that horizontal line, right? Let's say this angle is alpha and this angle is beta. So what is the lowermost angle that is possible, guys? What is the angle in the lowermost direction that is possible?
Beta, sir.
So it is beta. Similarly, this is going to be alpha. Am I clear? So maximum angle in the upward direction is going to be alpha. So here, only thing is this beta will take a negative value. Okay, there is reason why I'm saying beta will take a negative value because beta is taken in this direction, alpha is taken in this direction. I'm giving an arrow mark so that you guys are clear. Clear, guys? Now comes an important point. What is integral of dB? This is, first of all, this is a very, very, very crucial step. If you miss this, you're not going to get the answer. Okay. So I repeat, beta is given a negative sign because it is taken in the direction opposite to alpha. I'm taking alpha as positive, beta will be negative. That's it. So here, Mithun, I'm not taking the anti-clockwise or clockwise into consideration. I'm just saying one is positive, other is negative. I'm not going with the traditional this thing. See, generally in mathematics, anti-clockwise is given positive. Then I should have taken beta as positive, but I'm not taking the value of beta as negative because of the anti-clockwise. It's because opposite directions for alpha and beta. That is the thing. Okay. So what is the integral of dB? It is going to be b. So b is equal to, what is going to be this value, guys? So that is a constant. So mu naught I divided by 4 pi into a integral of cos pi into d phi. Right, integral of cos phi into d phi from where to where? From minus beta to alpha. So mu naught I divided by 4 pi a into integral of cos, guys. It is sine from minus beta to alpha. Okay. So integral of cos is sine, because how to find the integral of any value is, see, for example, I got the answer as sine, right? If I differentiate sine, I'll get back cos. That is why it is sine. Similarly, what will be the integral of sine phi? Just for you to understand, what will be the integral of sine phi? On differentiating, which trigonometric function will I get plus sine phi?
Cos.
On differentiating
Minus
minus
cos.
will get plus sine. So integral of sine is minus cos. Okay. So anyways, you will learn it in your math. That's a different story, but have this clarity in your mind. So mu naught I divided by 4 pi a into sine of, in the place of pi, I'm going to substitute the upper limit minus sine of the lower limit. So this will be mu naught I divided by 4 pi a into sine alpha plus sine beta. So this is the value of the magnetic field due to whom? Due to a finite length linear conductor. I hope I'm clear, guys. No doubt, right?
No doubt.
Good. So let me know once you're done copying it, okay?
Sir,
Please tell me.
I have a doubt, but not regarding this theorem, sir. Like not regarding this formula. Initially, when we did the theorem, sir, we gave the formula for the Biot-Savart law.
Let
We
me
didn't
actually
take.
Rohan 1 minute. To clarify the road, Bayard and Savart are two different scientists. It's a combined equation. Okay. Yeah, please proceed. To take something you told.
Like initially when you told, we didn't take for DL two values of theta, right? So like they weren't. We just took one value of theta.
That is a variable because that was an expression. See, we need to have a clarity. Whenever a mathematical equation is given, you will take it as R only, wherever you take that R. But when it comes to a problem, we should have a clarity on how to apply it. No, that is why it's just on.
Okay, so
Okay. So you need to understand one thing, that physics, not for that matter physics, math itself works like that. It is always a general equation that is given to you. See, I always don't look at anything like a formula. It is an equation which is a solution for some problem that is found. So here, what is the problem they found? Let's think in this way. No? At that point in time, when scientists were doing experiment, they had a conductor. They observed. This is how they would have thought at that point. I'm thinking so. Okay. They saw that magnetic field is there around the conductor. Then they would have immediately asked a question. Okay, I'm able to observe magnetic field. Why don't I try to calculate the value? Then what they would have done? They would have tried out different permutations and combinations of taking different points, taking different angles into consideration. Right? That is how any experiment is done, right? See, always any invention is an accident. Everything other than that accident is a development. So in that process, they derived an equation which we are learning it today in the name of a formula. That's it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. That is how anything works. Anything for that matter. Just an idea I'm sharing so that you need to have this kind of a thought process rather than looking. I'm not telling it for Rohan alone. Okay, it's for everyone. You just have a different open perspective on how they would have thought, try to think in these terms so that you will have better liking towards the subject. Okay. So B is equal to mu naught I divided by 4 pi A into sine alpha plus sine beta. Similarly, see, look at this. If you treat it like a formula, right? It's so scary, it's so big. Sine alpha plus sine beta, all these things are coming. I need to remember all these things. So, but if you look at it in a general way, mu naught by 4 pi is constant, common for everything. So, Biot-Savart law itself, they told that it is directly proportional to I. Right? And in the Biot-Savart law, they told it is inversely proportional to A, but actually it should have been A square, but I have A here because we have done all the mathematical operations. That is why you're left out with A. Then I need to remember this sine plus sine. What is this alpha and beta? I need to have a clarity of it. Because alpha and beta are angles. Which angle do I need to take into consideration? For example, in the question, let's say there is a question like this. There is an isosceles triangle. Okay. Let's say this angle is 45. Let me take it. Okay, let me take this as 45. Okay, not 45. Let me take it as 30 and 30. Okay, let me say this is 30 degrees, this is 30 degrees. This is point P. Okay, and let me say this distance is 2 centimeter and the current is 5 ampere. Okay. Now I'm asked to use the above expression to solve this question. So what will I do? B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi. I is 5 done. Divided by, what should I write in the place of A? It is 2 into 10 power minus 2. I hope everybody is clear because that's what the formula says. I stands for the current, A stands for the perpendicular distance. Here into sine of 30 degrees plus sine of 30 degrees. Am I done? Guys, am I clear?
Yes, sir.
But I'm absolutely wrong. You know why?
Sir,
Because
it will be sine 60.
It'd be sine 60, sir.
that is what I was waiting for. Because when we derive this equation, alpha and beta are the angles taken near the point where, see, that is how we derive, no? Alpha and beta, we defined it as the points or the angles made near the point where you're trying to calculate the field, but I took it as 30. Had I written it as sine 60 plus sine 60, my answer would have been right. No, these are all the kinds of mistakes we do. Good that you people observe. So that is what I was waiting for. It's a deliberate mistake. So it is sine 60 plus sine 60 because these are the angles. Okay. So please start visualizing it. See, you have understood this. The next concept that I'm going to say is very, very simple. Listen. Now what we are going to do is some special cases. So when I say special case, the first one I'm going to talk about is for magnetic field due to an infinite length conductor. So when I say infinite length, so we derive this formula of mu naught I by 4 pi into sine alpha plus sine beta for finite. Whereas here it is going to be for infinite. Okay, let's see. Since I cannot draw an infinite length, let's try to understand. So let's say this is getting extended till infinity. This is getting extended till infinity. Okay. The point P is here. Let's say this is the extreme of the conductor. It was alpha. If I extend it even more, the value of alpha will increase. If I extend it even more, alpha will increase. When this becomes of infinite length, what will happen to alpha, guys?
Become 0 degrees.
Alpha is what? Alpha is the angle made by this finger with A.
Become parallel to the conductor.
So what will happen is that R, that so-called line is there, no? This line. This line is there, no? This line will become parallel to the current carrying conductor. If it becomes parallel, then what is going to be the value of alpha? Now think and tell me. It will be like this, sir.
90 degrees, sir.
Yes. It will be pi by 2. So alpha will be pi by 2. What about beta? Beta is also pi by 2 because the same thing is going to happen in the downward direction. Here, you might get a doubt. Sir, why didn't you put a minus sign? Why didn't you say beta is minus pi by 2? Because I already included that minus sign in my derivation itself. I need not include it here. Because I included the minus sign in the derivation, I need not do it here. So I'm taking beta as pi by 2. Now I will take all these values and plug into the expression I have in my hand. So B is equal to mu naught I divided by 4 pi A into sine pi by 2 plus sine pi by 2. That is sine 90 plus sine 90. It is going to be a 1. Sine 90 is 1. 1 plus 1 is going to be a 2. So what is the answer, guys? Mu naught I divided by 2 pi into A. You know what? You'll not trust, you'll not believe that this is given as a direct equation in your textbook. They didn't show any kind of a derivation. But you need to know this because sometimes, very few times, I have found question which is based on this expression. Okay. So B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi into A. This is the formula for magnetic field due to a infinite length conductor, and this is very, very, very important. Okay. In this chapter, I'll tell you what are the trickiest part. One is remembering the formula or expression, whatever you call it. Second is most of them make mistake with respect to finding the direction of magnetic field. That is where they fail. Okay, but I assume you people are good with cross product of vectors and everything. Ensure if you're not thorough with cross product, you can always revisit the videos and just go through them before you come to the next class. Okay. Second, magnetic field due to a conductor of semi-infinite length. So what do I mean by semi-infinite? You need to understand. So in the previous case, if you see, I took a point P which has an equal share on both the sides. That is why I could get alpha as pi by 2 and beta as pi by 2. Whereas if I have one end of the conductor and if I take a point P exactly at one end of the conductor, then the other end of the conductor with respect to point P is definitely going to be a point of infinite length. In this case, what is going to be the value of alpha? Alpha is the angle above the horizontal line, beta is the angle below the horizontal line. So alpha is how much?
90 degrees. Pi by 2.
Correct. Pi by 2. Correct. So beta is
0 degrees.
very good. Beta is 0 degrees. So what will happen to B is mu naught I divided by 4 pi A into sine pi by 2 plus sine 0. Does that make sense? So it is going to be mu naught I divided by 4 pi A into sine pi by 2 is going to be 1 plus 0. And the answer is this thing. Are you guys able to understand the difference between the above expression and this one? So mu naught I is common in the numerator for everything. If the denominator is 2 pi A, it is of infinite length. If the denominator is of 4 pi A, it is of semi-infinite length. I hope it is clear, guys. We have dealt with a very, very important concept. Okay. So this is going to be the base for you to understand. And one point I'm repeatedly stressing, you will be using cross product of vectors throughout this chapter. If you're thorough with cross product, trust me, this chapter is going to be easy. Else, it's a nightmare because this chapter is lengthy also. This chapter has too many sub-concepts involved in it. So please ensure your cross product of vectors is very good. Ensure it before the next class. Okay. Next, I want to do a simple problem before winding up the session. Suppose I have a conductor of infinite length and I have another conductor which is also of infinite length placed parallel to each other but carrying the currents in the opposite direction. And I take a point P here and P dash here. Okay. Observe, this distance is D, and let me call this distance as A, and let me call this distance as B. Now, my interest of study is to find the magnetic field at point P and magnetic field at point P dash are how much? Clear, guys? So I'll give you 1 minute time. Try it out. You know the formula. The only thing you need to do is take a proper direction into consideration and add them vectorially because they are vectors. Do it fast. Let's see how much you have understood.
So I have a doubt.
Please tell me.
The wires here are not, the conductors aren't infinitely long, right?
They are of infinity. Yes.
Okay.
Infinite length. Okay. How many of you could solve it? Can you guys tell me the equation? Now see. What is the magnetic field? So this is at point P. What is the magnetic field due to the first conductor? What is the magnetic field due to the
Mu
first
naught I
conductor
by
at point
2 pi
P? Mu naught I1, because current is I1, divided by 2 pi into,
D plus A.
very good, into D plus A. I'm just showing the way I solve the problem. Okay. First, I always try to take the scalar part, then I will think of the vector. So mu naught.
Same
I2
formula
divided by,
A, sir.
it is I2 da. It's not the same thing. Okay. Now let's think. What is the direction of magnetic field due to the first conductor at point P? Is it into the plane or out of the plane? This is where your right hand thumb rule comes into picture.
Into the plane, sir.
Sorry, your voice broke there.
Into the plane, sir.
Very good. It is into the plane. So into the plane means, can I put a minus k cap here? Okay. Then what about B2 vector?
Outwards, sir.
It is outwards. So I will write it as plus k cap. So the net magnetic field at point P as a vector is equal to B1 vector plus B2 vector. Just take those values and substitute. That's it. You're done. So mu naught I1 by 2 pi into D plus A in the direction of minus k cap plus mu naught I2 divided by 2 pi into A in the direction of k cap. That's it. Okay. Similarly, what is going to be the value of magnetic field at point P, guys? P dash, guys. Mu naught I1 divided by 2 pi into D in the direction of k cap. This is due to B1 plus mu naught I2 divided by 2 pi into D plus B in the direction of minus k cap. This is due to B2. So you add these two, that is going to be the answer. Okay. That's it, guys. So I hope you guys are clear. So I use the formula of magnetic field due to an infinite length conductor, which is given by mu naught I divided by 2 pi A. So you have to remember that. Is everyone clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. So I will give you another problem. Take it as homework, solve and let me know. Let's say there is a rectangle of length L and breadth B. There is a point P here where, okay, if the current in this conductor is I, it is in a loop. The current in this conductor is in a loop, okay, in the clockwise direction. If the current in the conductor is I, find magnetic field at point P is equal to how much? Okay, this is one problem. Let's try to create another. Let's say you have an equilateral triangle of side A. Equilateral triangle of side A. Find B at the centroid of the equilateral triangle. Clear, guys? So take these two problems, solve it, and let me know in the next class. Okay. So if there is any other doubt in the meanwhile, you can reach out to me. And lastly, I suggest you all to go through the cross product of vectors before you come to the next class, because I'll start to use the cross product of vectors at many places. And not use right hand thumb rule or anything, because that is difficult for complicated diagrams. Okay, I'll mostly go only with vectors, especially cross product. So revise it and come before the next class. Okay. Any other doubt, guys? Any other doubt?
No doubt, sir.
Okay. Then we can wind up. I'll see you all in the next class. See, just wanted to say 1 minute, don't leave. See, next week onwards, I'll shift it to 3 itself. Okay. So 3 to 4 on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Let's shift it. You'll be getting an official message. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can wind up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.